All sound is produced by vibration through a medium. And for music, we generally need to only be concerned about the movement of sound through air. So the movement of air molecules excited by the sound's vibration is in the form of a wave, and then our eardrum, also called the tympanum, picks up that vibration and sends the signal to the brain. The amplitude of a sound refers to its intensity, and it does change over time. To produce what we recognize as a specific pitch, a waveform has to be periodic, which means the wave shape must repeat a certain number of times per second. An aperiodic shape is more random and produces unpitched percussion sound. So for a periodic wave, the repetition is described as its frequency, and it's measured as cycles per second, which can be abbreviated CPS, or is normally abbreviated as Hertz, which is a capital H and a lowercase z, named after the scientist who discovered electromagnetic waves. To measure frequencies, we have to arbitrarily choose a particular frequency as a reference, and this is usually A440 today. It's a standard that was established in 1939. So that would be the A above middle C on the second space of the treble staff. A pitch distance between two notes is called an interval in music, and we can use a ratio to describe intervals. A ratio is simply a comparison of two numbers. So the simplest ratio, which is a prime or unison, would be 1 to 1. So if we have an A440 and another A40, that's a 1 to 1 ratio. One of the most important characteristics of pitch is that we perceive a phenomenon known as octave equivalence. This refers to the fact that notes an octave apart, while clearly different pitches, have sonic characteristics which are so similar that we give them the same letter name. The ratio of the octave is 2 to 1. So for example, the octave above A440, which would be the ledger line above the treble staff, would be 880 Hertz. So it's exactly double the frequency. The octave below A440 would be the top line on the bass staff, and that would be 220 Hertz. We can write them as fractions so that the higher A would be 2 over 1 and the lower A would be 1/2. And that makes clear what's going on with the mathematics, but tuning theorists usually just prefer to use the colon in between the two numbers. But they can be written either way. And ratios can also be measured with either the higher or lower note as the reference, just as musical intervals can be measured up or down. Generally, we will create a scale in one reference octave and assume that all the other octaves don't change anything material. So powers of 2 just give us octaves. So for example, 2 squared, or 2 to the second power, equals 4. So that's the 4 to 1 ratio. That would be 2 octaves above A440. And then 2 to the negative third represents the fraction 1/8, because 2 to the third power is 8, and since it's a negative power, it's in the denominator. That would be the low A. I'm sorry, that would be the very low A below the bass staff, 3 octaves below A440. And I'll show you a little demonstration.